Long before the modern map was drawn, a prophet stood in the courts of Judah and spoke with a voice that cut through empires. His name was Isaiah. He saw kings and armies, idols and altars, the proud and the pious. He named what the world often refuses to see: that power built on violence and wealth built on exploitation are fragile, and that the true measure of history is the justice of God. This is not a book of random doom. It is a single, sweeping story that moves from judgment to mercy, from suffering to vindication, from exile to a new creation. Listen now as Isaiah's vision unfolds. Isaiah begins by looking squarely at a world that has trusted the wrong things. He speaks to a people who have traded justice for ritual, who have offered sacrifices while the poor go hungry. He speaks to nations that trust in chariots and alliances, in walls and treaties, in the strength of their own hands. To Assyria he says, your violence will not save you. To Babylon he says, your pride will not endure. To Egypt he says, your false security will fail. To Tyre he says, your wealth will rot. To Moab he says, your boasting will be silenced. This judgment is not arbitrary. It is a moral diagnosis. Isaiah exposes the rot beneath the surface: idolatry, oppression, deceit, and the worship of power. He shows how empires become idols, how kings become gods, and how people who should protect the vulnerable instead exploit them. The prophet's words are thunder because they are true. They are meant to wake a sleeping nation, to break what must be broken, to clear the stage for something new. Yet even in the thunder there is purpose. Judgment is surgical. It is the necessary breaking of what cannot be healed, so that healing can begin. The collapse of nations is the clearing of a field. The fall of empires is the removal of false foundations. Isaiah's message is not simply doom for doom's sake. It is the painful work of correction that precedes restoration. In the middle of Isaiah's book, the tone changes. The thunder gives way to a softer, more intimate voice. Out of the darkness a figure emerges, the servant. This servant is not a conquering general. He's not a king who rules by force. He's a gentle ruler who brings justice without crushing the fragile. He's a light to the nations, a healer of the broken, a voice for the voiceless. Isaiah paints this servant in 4 distinct songs. He's the one who will bring justice with gentleness. He's the one who will restore Israel and reach the nations. He's the one who will obey even when obedience leads to suffering. He's the one who will bear the sins of many. The prophet's language becomes personal and piercing. He speaks of a man who will be despised and rejected, who will be pierced for transgressions, who will be crushed for iniquities. He speaks of wounds that heal others, of silence in the face of accusation, of a sacrifice that bears the guilt of many. This is the hardest part of Isaiah. It is the part that forces us to look at suffering not as meaningless pain, but as a redemptive act when it is borne for others. The servant's suffering is not a tragic accident. It is the means by which healing comes. The prophet sees a paradox. Through apparent defeat comes victory, through death comes life, through silence comes vindication. The servant's path is the path of love that gives itself away. And then Isaiah goes further. He does not leave the servant in the tomb. He speaks of vindication, of the servant seeing the fruit of his suffering, of a life that follows death. The suffering is real. The victory is real. The prophet's vision moves from the cross to the empty tomb in a single breath. The servant's work opens the way for a restored people and a renewed world. After the servant's suffering, Isaiah's voice bursts into a song of restoration. The barren woman sings. The city that was desolate becomes a place of joy. The covenant is renewed. The Lord promises protection and peace. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. The Lord will call you by a new name. What was once empty is filled. What was once broken is rebuilt. This restoration is not merely national. It is cosmic. Isaiah's vision expands until it includes every nation, every tongue, every corner of the earth. The house of the Lord becomes a house of prayer for all peoples. The outcast is gathered. The stranger is welcomed. The Spirit moves and the poor are lifted. The prophet sees a future where justice flows like a river and mercy like an endless spring. Isaiah's final chapters look forward to a new heavens and a new earth. He speaks of a city of peace where sorrow is no more and where the glory of the Lord fills the world. He speaks of a people who live under a just and compassionate rule, who bear the marks of exile no longer, who walk in the light of a God who has made all things new. This is the culmination of the prophet's vision, a world remade by the work of the servants, a kingdom that is both present and coming. At the center of Isaiah's prophecy is a single, transforming truth. God is sovereign over history. He judges what is unjust. He humbles what is proud. He uses suffering to bring about redemption. He sends a servant who bears the world's wounds and opens the way to life. Isaiah refuses to let us settle for small gods or temporary victories. He calls us to a deeper allegiance, to a justice that cares for the weak, to a humility that recognizes our need for mercy. Isaiah also reshapes how we see suffering. Suffering is not always punishment. Sometimes it is the soil in which new life grows. The servant's suffering becomes the seed of restoration. The prophet invites us to see our own pain in the light of that larger story, to trust that God can bring beauty from ashes, and to live as people who embody the justice and mercy we have been shown. Finally, Isaiah widens our vision of God's people. The promise is not limited to one nation. The covenant extends to the ends of the earth. The house of the Lord is a house of prayer for all nations. The servant's work gathers the scattered and makes a people out of many. Isaiah's hope is inclusive, expansive, and ultimately universal. Isaiah's words are ancient and urgent. They call us to examine where we place our trust. They call us to resist the idols of power, wealth, and self-sufficiency. They call us to stand with the oppressed, to speak for the voiceless, and to live with a humility that reflects the servant's way. They call us to embrace suffering when it is the cost of love and to trust that God can turn even the darkest hour into a dawn. Read Isaiah as a map for living. Let judgment sharpen your conscience. Let the servant's example shape your heart. Let the promise of restoration fuel your hope. Live as a people who belong to a kingdom that is not of this world's making, but is being built by the one who gives himself away. Isaiah's prophecy moves from thunder to whisper, from sword to sacrifice, from exile to homecoming. It shows us a God who will not be mocked by human pride, a God who suffers with his people, and a God who brings the world to its intended end: justice, mercy, and peace. Carry this vision with you. Let it change the way you see power, suffering, and hope. Let it shape the way you live. If this message resonated with you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive. Thank you for listening.